This is the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose, where I strategize with business owners on how to grow and scale their businesses to hit their income goals. This is episode 234 of the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose. Today, we're going to be diving into how to transition your money-making side hustle into a full-time business with Kylie Hodges. Now, what I want you guys to understand is I'm definitely going to call you all out. Do not turn this episode off. I am telling you, this is the way that you can take that side hustle that you've been doing. You've been blogging, you've been influencing, and you're trying to think of a way in which you can diversify your income and step your business into full time. This is the episode that you are going to want to listen to. Now, I want you to make sure that if you are listening, send me a DM. Kylie is actually offering a 4-part framework that will go along with this episode. Send me a DM that you'd like the framework, and I will make sure to send that to you. As well as if you are listening to this episode and you're like, yep, I need to be doing this, I am ready for this, you need to get my email list growth guide. Because you guys, in order to have a service or product like we're going to talk about in this episode, you have to have an email list. And there are very specific ways that you need to be doing that. So my email list growth guide will walk you through how to do those. Again, you can send me a DM at Jenny_Melrose and ask for the email list growth guide, and I will send it right there to you. It will also be linked in the show notes, as will Kylie's framework. All right, you guys, let's dive in. Hi, Kylie. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited for this conversation. Before we jump into it, though, will you introduce yourself and your business?
Of course. My name is Kylie Hodges. I'm a business coach, and I work specifically with other coaches. And I help coaches stop waiting for their business to build itself and actually start making the money they want and the impact that matters most to them.
The fact that you hone in on the impact that matters the most to them, that is just language that I think more people need to hear and get excited about because they can step into their passion.
Yeah.
So we're really going to talk about today, like how to take your money-making side hustle and turn it into a full-time business. Mm-hmm. Before we do that, what are some of the ways that you've seen your clients making money as a side hustle?
Oh, that's a really good question. So, I don't start working with people until they have already established what it is that their side hustle is, that they know they want to grow into a full-time business. However, there is a form of there is a little formula to determine what is that thing, that je ne sais quoi that I have that I can do really easily and make a lot of money from. And it just comes down to asking yourself 2 questions. Who do I want to help? And what is the problem I want to solve? And when those 2 intersect, you can really narrow in on, that is the thing that I can do. And I just want to point out here that what I'm talking about is specifically service-based. So this can apply to product-based businesses, but the fastest form of a business that you can get up and running is service-based. And what I mean by that is your knowledge, whatever it is that you have to share and the way you work with people is the way you make money. And products are brilliant, and I love product-based businesses, and I have a lot of respect for them, but there's a little more leeway to getting them started. So if you know that there is a certain type of person or a specific problem that you know you can help with, that is the way to start getting to the fastest path to cash for you.
The interesting thing to me about that statement is that a lot of my audience are bloggers, they're influencers, they've established themselves kind of with this audience. And then they decide, you know what, I probably should be diversifying instead of just trying to make money on Instagram doing sponsorships. Mm-hmm. And that's when they actually will turn, I feel like, into their expertise and try to figure out a service in which they can serve their audience. So anything from nutritionists to a health coach. I've worked with therapists that just work with police officers and their wives.
Oh, wow.
There's such a wide array in which you can do this. And even if you start off as a blogger that's just primarily creating free content, food blogger, let's say, for example, they can step into a level of expertise, especially if they do a particular type of food or a specific way in which they meal plan or meal prep, whatever it might be.
Yes. And the real gift with these people, these bloggers and influencers, you've done a lot of the heavy lifting already in marketing. You've grown an audience. That's amazing. So many small business owners would kill to have that in their pocket the way you do. So if you are a blogger or an influencer, you don't really know how to answer those questions for yourself, turn to your audience and ask them, what do they want? What do they need? What are their biggest pain points? And then you can start to sift through their answers and say, can I speak to that? Can I speak to that?
Right. And a lot of
potential there.
Yes. And a lot of times they already are speaking to those problems. They just don't look at it from that standpoint. They're looking at it as I'm just trying to create content for them to drive them in, but they're solving a problem for them. And it is a way to kind of step up their business. And if they are doing this as a side hustle, now they can make it a full-time income. So I just really wanted to preface that because I know you primarily work with coaches, but I think that this is a great conversation for my audience so that they can start to figure out ways in which they can diversify their income with services or even products down the road.
Absolutely. And even with creating content, this would be a good time to ask yourself, how much value is in the content I'm creating? If this is super, super high value content that you think could be stretched out over a long period and maybe needs to be digested in a one-on-one situation or over a more intimate or intense setting, then that's where you can start to sift out of the content you're creating. Maybe some of this can be monetized in a different way rather than sharing with my general audience.
Yes, 100% agree. So in order for money-making side hustle to be turned into a successful business, how do we need to approach it? Because I feel like this is so basic, but I think that if you don't have this particular mindset, you're dead in the water.
That is a really good question. Well, how do I need to approach it? First of all, a couple of things. You have to own it. You have to commit to it. And it can feel really heavy to commit to something for the long haul. So what I imagine with bloggers is that you're probably committing to a type of content creation or a type of engaging with your audience for a certain amount of time, experimenting and seeing how your audience resonates with that kind of content. And then if it doesn't work, you pivot. I would say, think of it this way with your side hustle. Commit 3 months or 6 months or 1 year to developing the side hustle and seeing how it feels with you internally, but also getting a feel for how much time can I dedicate to it and mental energy and really sort of finding your footing with it. But there is some sort of commitment you need to make because if you're half in and half out, you're going to spiral and you're going to start shaming yourself because you realize that maybe the wheels aren't turning and there's no progress happening, and we don't want that. The next thing is there is a sense of responsibility you have to take, and you have to sort of, I like to tell my clients, grow yourself into the business owner you want to be. So it's going to ask you to up level and think differently about the way you engage with people, the way you think about money, the way you prioritize your time. You are going to have to step out of the role of content creator for a moment or for part of your time and into the role of business owner, which requires you to function more like a true CEO and less like a freelancer. So those are mindset shifts you have to work out on your own. And maybe it's just as simple as sitting down with a piece of paper and asking yourself, what do I do right now that makes me fall in the bucket of freelancer? And what do I think a business owner would do differently? Identify those things and then start figuring out what are the habits and behaviors I need to develop to move myself into the business owner bucket.
Yes. I always said, treat yourself like a business and others will too.
Yes.
But I think the way that you defined it with commitment and responsibility puts a definition to what that should look like. So
yes,
that was perfect. And
thank you. Thank you.
So what are the most critical things to focus on when turning a money-making side hustle into a full-time business?
Good question. So I see this like a dance. It's always going to be a dance, but the dance will start to feel a little more polished as time goes on. When I talk to my clients, I have them think about 4 different arenas of business, and those arenas are always in motion. So I'll just list them off. They are pricing and packaging. And I guess what I mean by that is, what is the thing that you're selling? Mm-hmm. The next one is marketing. The third one is sales. And the fourth one is self-management. So when I was talking about responsibility and commitment and who's the business owner you want to be, that falls in the self-management bucket. But these arenas there's no specific time to just work on one of them. They're constantly all in motion, like a cyclone. You need to be balancing all 4 plates, and it's going to feel a little hairy at first, but you need to always keep in mind, okay, so I spent most of the day creating content. Great. That's going to fall under my marketing bucket. What have I done today to further sales? What have I done today to actually make the money and get that exchange of cash going? And also, how am I doing? How is the thing that I'm trying to sell doing? Have I really put time into mapping out what that looks like? Have I had any conversations with people about it? And so on and so forth. So if you know that those are the 4 important arenas of business that always need to be in motion for you, that can be a really grounding way to get clear on, to eliminate the overwhelm, essentially, because there's always something more you can be doing. But in a situation like this, where it's a side hustle and you have very limited time and resources, you need to get focused on what are the essentials that I need to focus on and nothing that I don't. And if you have an understanding of what those 4 arenas are, that will really, really help.
Okay. So let's go over those 4 one more time. And let's give an example of each one. So the way that you did the marketing example was perfect.
Yes.
Let's do just like that so that we can kind of just really solidify in our head what each of those arenas is in order to move forward.
Yeah. So let's start with the pricing and packaging arena. I think that one can really overwhelm people. And I would like to encourage you to start here. This goes back to what we were talking about earlier with getting clear on, what do I want to sell? So let's say that you are a food blogger and you know that you can pivot yourself into some sort of nutrition consulting or coaching. How specifically would you want to work with people? My advice, especially if this is a side hustle, is think about what is the highest value that you can offer at a higher price setting, so that you don't need to get 1 million clients, you just need to get 1, and that'll make a really impactful change for you financially. So for pricing and packaging, just create 1 singular high-priced offer that involves your expertise working with someone or a few people, but I really encourage you to be one-on-one here and focus on selling that. So that is getting clear on what is it that you're selling to people?
Okay. And I think that also leans into that really well, is that when you do find that one person that's willing to pay that higher price, you can often figure out what is the low-hanging fruit that doesn't involve so much one-on-one with you, that you can offer other things, because now you have your perfect person that you're working with to really figure out what other problems you can solve without having it to be a higher price. Because I know my food bloggers, and they're thinking in their head, Jenny, are you out of your mind? They've been getting stuff for free for 17 years. There's no way they're going to jump into a $500 program or whatever that price might be with me. But all you need is that one person, like you said, to have that income coming in, and then to be able to start those conversations about, okay, what are we seeing other pain points, to be able to flesh it out and figure out what would be lower hanging, smaller products or services. Perfect.
Yes. And I want to argue the person who says, Jenny, come on. Yes, there is all the information in the world is for free on the internet, but I cannot tell you how many people, myself included, would gladly pay a higher price for someone to customize. That's the wrong word. For someone to specifically work with me one-on-one. Sift through all of the information for me and tell me only what I need to know and nothing that I don't. There is a lot of value in that. So I hear you. People can find all the content in the world out there on the internet. And there is something to be said about working with you one-on-one specifically that is highly valuable for people. And that perfect person is totally out there and they really want to work with you. They just haven't heard you present the opportunity to them yet.
Oh, I love that. Now my wheels are turning and I'm hoping my food bloggers are going, wait a second. I have a ton of cauliflower recipes and I have a ton of people that are trying to figure out how to do Whole30. Maybe instead I work one-on-one with them and I actually do their meal plan. I sit down and give them my time, which I'm going to charge a higher price for in order to give them the recipes that they know their family is actually going to eat. Oh, I love it, Kylie. So good. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Next arena,
I'll briefly touch on marketing. It sounds like everybody listening is probably a brilliant marketer, but the one thing I want to point out here is create an elevator pitch for yourself and what you're selling. I'm sure you're brilliant at captioning and creating the content, but you need to make it pretty obvious and concise and clear to your audience. What is it that you're doing that they can play differently with? Like, you have all of this free content on your platform, and here's this really beautiful elevator pitch that's inviting them to engage with you a different way. So make sure you have clear marketing language around what you're selling. The next arena, sales. Okay, this is my absolute favorite. So the perfect person is out there and they're not hiding. They are right under your nose. So who is the person that is your number one fan on your blog? Who is the person that is constantly DMing you questions and you are graciously answering them because you want to give to your audience? Those are the people that you need to be really brave and contact them and say, why don't we get on the phone? Tell me more about what's going on for you. And the thing with sales that will always leave people feeling like they never were sold to, because we're not selling to people here. We're just trying to listen and see if a problem they have is a problem you can solve. The thing that people will thank you about in sales is if you stay curious and you're always asking them questions. So get that perfect person, that big fan of your blog on the phone and just say, what is the biggest problem you have when it comes to meal planning? Why do you think that is? Would it be helpful for you if there was someone who could do this one-on-one with you? When they realize that that is what they need and you conveniently have crafted that offer, it's going to be a no-brainer for them to want to buy it. And it's honestly the most gracious thing you can do for someone when you have a solution to their problem that you can offer them.
Yes. And you're serving them. Which I think is what people, I know what they did when you said sales, they all rolled their eyes and started to not listen.
Yes.
I'm 100% calling them out. So if you're listening to this and you know I'm calling
Don't hang up. Don't pause.
Keep listening and you better DM me and be honest that you actually did it because I know y'all did it. But it's about serving them. And when it takes away that icky feeling, because if you don't try to offer to serve them, they're still going to have the same problem.
Yes. If you go into every conversation with your potential perfect person, focusing on being curious, you will have no problem at all. And I have to say, I have gotten thank you notes and Amazon gift cards from people who I've gotten on the phone with in a sales manner. But the way that I led the conversation with them was so eye-opening for them because they felt that there was something up, but they didn't realize they had an actual problem until I helped them identify it. And that right there is life-changing for people. So do the kind thing and ask the bold questions.
Yes. And to go along with that, because I think there's a line, right, where you get someone on the phone and now all of a sudden you're trying to actually solve the problem right then and there when you're supposed to be doing kind of a discovery and understanding what their problem is.
Yes.
So how do you stay away from solving the problem and them literally not needing you because you just did it?
Excellent question. So first, to everyone listening, I want you to ask yourself, how would this person be, how can I serve this person the most? If I were to solve their problem immediately over the phone, is that really helping them in the long term? Probably not. So channel that answer and resist the temptation to solve, because I am also a solver and a helper and a doer. I get it. The most impactful and important thing when you're on a sales call, for lack of a better term, with someone is to develop awareness. They need to be very aware of what is the problem and where would they rather be? How would they rather feel? What would they rather have in their life? If their answer to that aligns with what you have to offer, then you present it to them. But for 90% of that conversation, we're not talking about you and we're not talking about what you sell. We're talking to the person on the phone and helping them and yourself get aware of what is the problem.
Yes. Okay. So good. Last area.
Yeah, the last arena, it's self-management. So this, I could talk for days and hours about all the different things you could do. But the main thing here is assessing what are the behaviors I have in my life and how are they helping me or hurting me. So one thing that you can do right now is spend a day or two logging your whole day, like once an hour, write down everything that you've done and assess, where does most of my time go? Now that you have a clear understanding, you might realize, oh, I spend way more time engaging with my audience than I need to. Maybe I'm doing it for 3 hours and I only need to do it for 90 minutes. What could you do that moves you into the bucket of business owner for that extra 90 minutes? On top of that, once you've gotten clear of how you're spending your time, I always tell my clients, honor your calendar. Treat your calendar like the best, most important thing in your life and honor it, because you get to call the shots for how you run your days. So schedule it out. And that doesn't mean you need to cram as much as possible into the day. You just need to do the most important thing. And maybe for that day on Wednesdays, you just do 20 minutes of marketing, specifically on what you're trying to sell. And on Fridays, you focus for an hour on sales. It doesn't have to be overwhelming and hard. You get to choose how you play in the situation.
Right. And with that being said, it also doesn't have to be that you're doing a full 8 hour, because I know my moms of toddlers in particular are going, yeah, that's not possible. I can track my day, but my kid came up and threw their sippy cup at me and I had to go clean up the mess that they spilled the milk on the floor. Yeah. And then I came back and totally forgot what I was doing in the first place. So I think it's still, like you said, creating that calendar and honoring it and having those conversations with our significant other, if we are a mom with kids, or the person that's going to help with childcare, to be able to figure out when you're going to get your time. Because that is part of what we need to be able to do for ourselves, is figure out where in our calendar does it work. Is it before the kids get up? Is it after they go to bed? Just really starting to have those conversations, not only with yourself, but also with your significant other, so they can help support you. Because I know they all heard that and they were like, yeah, well, I have toddlers and they're all over me, Jenny. You don't anymore. Yours go to school full time. And it's true. And I get it. And that used to be my pushback too when mine were toddlers. Well, I can't do that. But you can still schedule it out. And like you said, it doesn't have to all get done in a week. It just needs to be the most important thing that's going to move your business forward.
Yep. And like I said, it can be one singular task that only takes 10 minutes. And the other thing is, it's your business. You call the shots. Like in your dream world, how long would you be working on your business? For me, it's like 5 hours a day max. There's no way I can be my best self for 8 hours straight. And I don't expect anybody else to. So for all of the working moms, I see you. And this is your opportunity to call the shots here with when there is a window you want to dedicate to your business, and do what you can. And that is the best that you can do. And that's great.
And I think the struggle with that comes often because we will look at someone else's journey that's been on it for 10 years. And now their kids are out of the house and they can do this full time and try to compare our toddler life with their journey and understanding that what their goals are, that may not be your goals. That's not why you're doing this. So I also think it's important to really tie into why are you doing this? Why are you wanting this business? So that you can make sure that you're not trying to kill yourself with 40-hour weeks while you still have toddlers at home, and understanding that as long as you're focusing on the right things, you're continuing to move forward.
Yeah, that's such an excellent point. I mean, this is by all means not my saying. I believe my therapist said this to me, but comparison is the thief of joy. And, it's not your responsibility to do anything other than live your life the way you want to. And everybody's journey is different. And those people who look like they're thriving with their kids in school, maybe they have a lot of regrets with how they behaved when their kids were toddlers. Maybe they were trying to get in those 8-hour days. And now looking back, they're like, I missed that time with my kids. Everybody's business journey is differently. And I would really like to encourage everybody listening to remind themselves of that. Everything is temporary and you get to choose how you engage in your business.
Yes. And your goal may not be to have $1 million business, and that's okay. And you have to sit in it and know what you want with for your own values, for your own family. So I think it's so important.
Yes.
Go ahead, Kylie. I'm sorry.
Well, and I heard you say your why. And I remembered you mentioned that I imagine somebody listening is saying, oh, I should be doing this. I should be doing that. But why do you want to go into business? Not because you think you should. If that is the case, don't go into business. Nobody that is doing a business because you think you should is not the attitude to have here. And I would encourage you to just go get a job working for somebody else. Your life could potentially be easier. The reason most people go into business, not all, but most, especially creatives, is because they see that there is something happening in the world that they know they can change. That is a lofty thought. So checking yourself and actually sitting down and jotting the points down of why does this feel right to me? Why do I want to go into this business is very important. And I'm really glad you pointed that out. I would argue that is the very first thing you do before you try to dive into marketing and sales and all of that. Don't build something until you're crystal clear about why you want to do it and what you want.
Yes. You have a freebie that goes into more depth on these 4 different arenas that we are going to link to in the show notes. You also can send both Kylie or myself a DM asking for it. Just say arena download and we will make sure to give you that. Can you talk a little bit about what's in the guide?
Yeah, it's called The Ultimate Roadmap to Up Level from a Side Hustle to a Dream Business. And basically, I just mapped out what are the 4 different arenas of business. And in those 4 arenas, what are the main tasks that you need to check off the list so that you can keep this dance going and eventually graduate if you want to a full-time business. So I've mapped out what I think are the top 3 to 4 habits in each arena that are the most important. And I go into a little more depth with them too. It's a really good thing to keep on your desk so that when you're planning out your day and saying, okay, I have 30 minutes that I can dedicate to my day. What is going on in my business now? What is on this list that I haven't addressed yet? And you can just check it off.
Perfect. And now, where's the best place to get in touch with you? Definitely tell them your Instagram because I'm telling you, that's where they all go.
Yep. My Instagram is my name, Kylie Hodges. I spell it like Kylie Jenner. And that's the best way to stay in touch with me. I'm on Instagram all the time. If you're really curious, please send me an email. I'd love to stay in touch. It's Kylie@wingwomancollective.com, but Instagram is the way to play with me.
Yes. And for my older audience that are in their 40s, how do you spell Kylie? I don't know how to spell Kylie.
Oh my God. That's so, honestly though, here's another example. Kylie like Kylie Minogue, Kylie. And I never used to say Kylie like Kylie Jenner until recently when I go to Starbucks and they would look at me with confused eyes like they had never heard that name before.
Yes. Oh my goodness, that's so funny. Because I'm thinking, yeah, I don't think I know how she spells it. I know how you spell it, but I want to make sure because if I don't know, my people may not know either.
Yes, Kylie, Kylie. Thank you so much for asking.
Yeah, of course. And I totally dated myself, but that's fine. Kylie, I appreciate you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with me. I really think it's a valuable conversation because we do have so many people that are making money, working their side hustle, but not really sure how to take it to make it full time and do it the way that they want to.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really hope that your audience found this valuable.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Well, there you have it. I hope if you heard me calling you out and you kind of went, yep, that's me. She's talking to me. I get it. I'm going to do it. I want you to make sure that you send me a DM so that you can get Kylie's framework as well as my email list growth guide. Again, it's at Jenny_Melrose. You can also send a DM to Kylie. As you heard, it was Kylie Hodges, Hodges. Again, it's all linked in the show notes, but you can also send her a DM on Instagram asking any other questions that you may have about this. It was such a great conversation. I am so grateful to have Kylie on, which brings me to the fact that if you haven't already left a review on your favorite podcasting app, I would so appreciate it if you would take the time to do so because it helps me get great guests like Kylie. All you do is leave a quick rating and then a couple sentences review telling people what you love or hate, if you hate it, about the podcast. I, as always, appreciate you guys so much when you take the time to do so. All right, until next time, I will see you all then.